Hi there, folks. This is episode 199 of the WP-Tonic podcast show. It's our round table show that we do every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We also do a Facebook live feed on the WP-Tonic Facebook page. So if you want to join us, go there. And we've got a great panel of WordPress experts and influencers. And we're going to be talking about some latest WordPress news stories. And our main topic in this discussion is going to be membership plugins, so you can build fantastic membership websites. But first, I'm going to introduce our panel. And I'm going to go first with Jackie. Like to introduce yourself, Jackie?
Yes, I'm Jackie D'Elia. I'm a web developer in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I am the host of Rethink.fm.
That's great, Jackie. Our next great panelist is Kim. Like to introduce yourself, Kim?
Sure. I'm Kim Shivler. I'm a technology and communications trainer with WordPress. I tend to focus on online courses and membership websites.
That's great. And our next great panelist is Adam. Like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Adam from WPCrafter.com, where I make WordPress training videos for non-techies. They're all on YouTube. They're free. Go knock yourself out. I'm sure you will enjoy them.
All right. And our next panelist is Mendel. Like to introduce yourself?
Hello. I'm Mendel from GoDaddy. And sorry, guys, I always have to be goofy. Mendel from GoDaddy. And I love WordPress, use WordPress, do WordPress with all the things. So
it's the big daddy. And to finish, my great co-host, John Locke. Like to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Before I do that, I want to tell Mendel, Say Reed is going to sue you for gimmick infringement.
Oh, no. I said all the things. Say, I'm sorry. If you're listening, I'm sorry. Don't make this a Twitter battle.
Yeah.
Twitter battles.
Anyway, definitely, yes. I'm John Locke, Lockdown Design, and taking care of WordPress and SEO over there. And then Jonathan.
Yes, folks, I'm the founder of WP-Tonic, so all this madness you can blame on me. We're a WordPress maintenance support company. We're your trusted partner, aren't we, John?
Trusted as always.
Yes. So, folks, we're going to go into our news section first, and we're going to be talking about WordPress removes HHVM from tested infrastructure. That's a fantastic title, isn't it, folks? But I thought it was interesting because it was the darling of the hardcore development community. It was going to replace PHP to some extent. And then PHP 7 comes and doesn't seem to be so urgent now. I thought it just interesting how quickly technology changes in this field. Let's open it to Adam first. What did you think of that story, Adam? Got anything to comment about it?
Well, I actually made a video maybe 3 months ago, and I said the title of the video was the one thing you can do to double the speed of your website. And essentially, that was just to get people to watch and learn how to click 2 mouse clicks and upgrade their PHP on their web hosting account from 5.6 or whatever to 7. And it's just a huge, massive speed improvement with just 3 mouse clicks. And, and if there's more to it on how to see if all your plugins and themes are PHP 7 compatible and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, folks, do not do that on a live site, please.
Well, I mean, part of the discussion is if you're a WordPress theme or plugin developer, you're doing your customers a serious disservice if you haven't gone through and made sure everything's PHP 7 compatible. But I think we're really in exciting times. It's actually good for the website owner. It's good for the website developer. It's good for the web hosting provider. I'm trying to point down to the GoDaddy box because things are going to get faster. Technology is getting better. It's just amazing at how things are moving so fast. And so anyways, I'm excited about the speed improvements, and I prefer PHP anyway.
Yeah. Let's go to Kim. What did you think of the article, Kim?
Well, I hadn't worked with the other. I'm no longer a hardcore developer. I'm much more of a
Once a hardcore developer, always a hardcore.
no. And actually, I never was. I could develop, but I've got a broader sense, and I'm more of the communicator between technical and non-technical people. So I hadn't worked with it. I'm happy with PHP 7. I was the same as Adam. And my thoughts were actually if we're going to be talking about back-end things, etc., I'm still looking for people to start talking more on JavaScript in the back end, as opposed to HVV, and just me personally.
Yeah, I just thought on a broader scope, I just thought it was a slightly interesting story about, choices made, because it's a really hot technology, and then quite suddenly, because older technology responds to the challenge, it no longer is hot. And you've seen that quite regularly in the WordPress ecosystem, really, I feel. What do you feel about that, Mendel?
Listen, I think we should all ruthlessly prioritize for what is better performing, more performant, and easier. And I think if the performance gains for PHP 7 are better than HHVM, then do it. Just ruthlessly.
Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, do it. What do you think, Jackie?
Just curious, do you think that the SSL, everybody moving to SSL and the HTTP2 is also helping improve performance and kind of taking some of the worry off of the speed that HHVM was supposed to deliver?
Doesn't SSL actually, isn't there some concern about it decreasing performance a very small bit?
Well, it used to be a lot slower. I've got SSL on all of my sites now, and I'm finding they're doing very well, because they do the asynchronous download of a lot of your assets. So you don't have to spend as much time worrying about concatenating all your JavaScript, and because things will load all at the same time instead of one right after the other. So I think there's a big shift now. Most people are all starting to move to SSL, even on sites where they don't have any e-commerce. Security's better. You've got contact forms you're using. People are submitting personal information, email addresses, things like that. And I think that's just, everybody is switching now. And with Let's Encrypt, that has made it super easy. I mean, you just click it and install it, and you're good to go.
Well, you also have to switch, not to jump in on the SSL conversation. You're forced to, because if someone's using Google Chrome and they go to your website and there's anything where they have to submit any information, it says not secure. That's not cool.
The thing I was going to say, folks, is if you're starting a website, I would advise you to, especially because you've got the fantastic free product, which a lot of quality hosting providers are offering now to you. It's better to go HTTPS as quick as possible, because there's nothing worse than having a large website and then trying to change it to that. It's a bit of a nightmare. Keeps us busy though. But what do you think, John? What do you think about this?
Yeah, so HHVM was part of the Facebook stack originally, and it was designed to speed up. And originally, this is maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it was showing double the speed versus something like PHP 5.4. Now that we have PHP 7, that is kind of making HHVM obsolete for WordPress. And one of the things that this article pointed out is there's only maybe like a few dozen sites that were using HHVM with WordPress. So though there was never officially support for it, they basically constructed WordPress to be able to use it. But now that PHP 7 is here, plus we have HTTP2, a lot of these speed concerns are kind of redundant. So this is kind of like what's now. SSL, HTTP2, PHP 7. If you're not on that right now, or if your host is still on, ancient unsupported version of PHP, and believe me, there's still a lot of them out there. You should be upgrading and seeking out a host that supports those protocols, because it's going to give you tons of speed. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm curious for some clarification. So I was under the impression that the HHVM was more compiler and less PHP competitor. So like the difference between Zend and HHVM, right? Like right. One of them is compiling just in time, the other is not, right? So like for clarification, is that the corollary within the PHP world?
Like I said, HHVM is a driver for MongoDB. So yeah, that's probably the closest corollary. Is just part of the stack. It wasn't necessarily like a one-to-one with PHP, but you're right. It was a driver, and like I said, it's this story is like they're removing it from the testing infrastructure. It's just because a lot of it too, the HHVM, there's just hardly any sites using WordPress that are actually using that. So
cool.
Yeah, that's great. I think we'll go on to our second story now. I'm going to butcher the. It's from IndieHackers. It was around on the Twitter feeds that I follow, and it's, how would you pronounce this, John? Help me. Is it female? Female, right? Great story, I thought, about the background of the company and how they managed to get great success. Who are going to choose? Who are going to pick on? Let's go for Adam. He looks like he wants to be picked on. Did you manage to have a quick butchers of it? And what did you think of it, Adam?
Actually, my question was just, how do you pronounce his name? Is it Enot? Enot?
I'm not going to even attempt. Enot Mingle.
Enot?
Enot. That's how I would.
Enot. Okay, good. I just wanted to get the name right. Well, actually, I read the article. I like stuff like that. I hope you guys got a chance to read the article as well. And I have a little different perspective because I've done business at a higher level where there's lots of money moving around. And that's kind of what I got from the article there too. I think I would call Enoch like the Gary V of WordPress. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk. His whole mantra is hustling, and every other word's an expletive. But I'm talking more about the hustling side of Gary V. I think that's Enoch for sure, the hustling. However, I used to have a business a few years back where we had a lot of money. A lot of money was moving around every month. So every month I had to spend about $70,000 just on data. And so when I was reading his article and I saw all the money that was coming in, I know like a lot of folks, we say, wow, he's making $100,000 a month. Wasn't making $100,000 a month at all. You know, when I had this business and I was spending $70,000 a month on data alone, I was actually losing money every month, even though we had over $100,000 a month coming in. It's just the guy's a hustler and he's a beast. You got to respect how he built something out of nothing, and he hustled. But at the same time, I think a lot of what he built was short term. Very short term. And I think that's what you saw happen when his theme was pulled out of the theme repository, which was a news story about 7 or 8 months back. But you got to respect the hustler. I think he's learned a lot of lessons. I think there's a lot of lessons to learn. The way he grew his business was a lot different than maybe look at Pippin at Easy Digital Downloads, where he built it through building a core of evangelists that just love his product, and it wasn't all AdSense and paid ads. So I had there's a lot of interesting information in there. You got to respect the guy for, being willing to throw $50,000 a month at advertising.
Yeah. because we discussed, it was a little bit of upset, and we actually discussed when his theme was thrown out of and we had a bit of a discussion about it. What did you think of the article, John?
So I read this, and there's a couple lessons that I got from this. They were trying different things to see what would work. Themes, I don't think it's any secret, but themes are kind of, 5 or 6 years ago, that was the hot thing. Right now, like, it's plugins, and themes, sales of themes are not what they were, unless you're maybe like the top 5 on ThemeForest. But a lot of what they did was just simple things in their testing, like choosing better main photos for their theme, working with a professional copywriter. That's one of the things that stood out to me. And with Zeraflight, they use that as kind of a leading product. They would promote that to get other people to pick up their themes. One of the things that was really interesting is they were doing a lot of work initially on promoting instead of putting that into the product. And a lot of people were just picking up the free themes that weren't very good. When they started concentrating more on just putting out a better product, their sales started to increase. That was one of the things that really stood out. And I think there's a line like toward the bottom of the page where it says, the price doesn't exist like by itself, like in this vacuum. If the value that your product or service is creating, if the value that it's giving to the customer is more than the price, then they're going to buy it no matter how inexpensive or expensive it is. So there's a lot of good lessons here in this article.
Yeah, I think you did an excellent job there, John, and there were some of the insights I got from it. What did you think of it, Rendell?
Yeah, the article itself, that's what I want to focus on. So anytime somebody's hustling, making moves, building something profitable, I think it's an important time to take notice. I don't know a ton about him, but I do know what I read, right? And a lot of the advice in there is sound. Some of the lessons learned, investing in, one of the things that stuck out to me is investing in advertising versus people, right? That investing in people is risky. Investing in advertising is a lot easier. And that rang true to me because I think people are the most important component of building something, whether it's evangelizing it, whether it's coming up with ideas, whether it's hustling to get promotion where you don't have to spend any money. So if you haven't seen the article, did you short link that, or so it's over on IndieHackers though?
Yeah,
so,
it's on IndieHackers.
Yeah, just good article. If you yourself are building something, I think it's a good place to get some advice.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it, because a lot of what he was saying, I didn't totally agree with it, but it had a sense of truth about it as well, which sometimes is missing in some of these articles. On my perspective, I might be wrong there, folks, but that's my feedback. What did you think of it, Kim?
Really a lot the same as the other guys. Adam, I loved what you pointed out, because I like the case study layout of articles as businesses grow. But looking at what people have coming in is no indicator of how profitable they are. And it's so easy to be spending more on the other side than you're taking in. So I would say that was the one place that was missing. I loved the takeaways, though, John, that you pointed out. I liked where he would point out like where they decided to pull in this plugin and focus on it and what it did for them. And I did think it was kind of funny though. I thought he kind of glossed over the Zeraflight issue, because that was a big story. And there was a lot going on with that. And there was a lot of communication to them. It wasn't like WordPress just pulled them from the repository without warning. There was a lot that went on behind that, and he glossed over it in like one sentence. So I just found that was kind of like maybe a little more information, or maybe bringing a little more perspective on how you could have communicated better as a company to come back there instead of just throwing it under the rug.
Yeah,
I wonder
we
if that
can.
was a blessing in disguise, you know what I mean? Because what it forced them to do was look at where they were spending money. And whenever you're spending money on advertising, you're probably wasting about 50 to 60% of it because it's hard to track any kind of return. So I wonder if that was like a wake-up call to say, wow, I got to watch in how we're spending the money. And now that made them actually make money. Like a turn of profits, even though the revenues were down. But then also, when you look at like the what's really neat about the article, you see the chart, you know what I mean? Like the revenue chart. And so when you read the article in September, it said, you know, they were making X amount of dollars per month. They weren't really making that consistently per month. They were just, it was like this and then immediately like this, like a mountain. They probably only made those really huge numbers that 1 month or 2 months, and then it just came back to how it was 3 months ago. But it's kind of artificial short-term growth, right? Anyone can take $50,000, and if you're just even a novice, throw it at your product and make an extra $50,000. But did you make any money? You didn't. You just got more revenues, which create more tax burden. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yep, great points. What did you think of the article, Jackie?
Actually, we covered almost all of it, but there was one thing in there that I thought was interesting is he says that they removed a single line of CSS on our sales page to remove the lowest pricing plan, and that resulted in an additional $30,000 in revenue over time. And that's just a reminder that to go back and experiment, look at things and try some like A/B testing, and don't be afraid to go and tweak things, because a simple change like that, which you would normally probably just leave that pricing plan on there, and even if people weren't choosing it, but it seems to have affected their buying decisions. So I think that that's something to be mindful of.
Yeah, great point, Jackie. Well, just to wrap it up, folks, I just thought it was a really detailed article that had meat in it, as I would say, and it's a pretty good read. And one of the things I got back, one of the great things is I still think it's a very dynamic and area WordPress. One of our panelists, Brian Jackson, with his brother, are got a new plugin which they're just about to go public with, or it is. So I think, folks, it's going to be a lot of hard work though, and success is not guaranteed at all. But I think there's still possibilities for smaller shops and individuals to get great success in WordPress, which is great for the WordPress community in general, I feel. We're going to go for our break, folks, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about our main topic, which is going to be WordPress membership plugins, what criterias, and what are some of the favorites from the panel that's got a lot of experience in this group, I feel, around that particular subject. So we're going to be back in a minute and we're going to have a good discussion about that. We're coming back, folks, from our break, and we're going to delve into membership plugins. And I'm going to start with Adam because he was dying to have some of his experiences here. In our little chat room, folks, I put some criteria which I got off Chris Lemmer's very large 2016 review. I don't totally agree with the main criteria. So I'll just start off with Adam. Can you just give a general quick synopsis of what your experiences on membership plugins have been, and what are some of the key features you feel people have got to understand before they choose one, Adam?
Sure. Well, I was actually thinking about this, and a lot of things we see today in WordPress, you know, we're in 2017, a lot of them actually were birthed out of the internet marketing space. And membership plugins, that was the birth from the internet marketing space 5 years ago. And so what you had 5 years ago was a lot of membership plugins being built, and a lot of them are actually still around today, and they're complete garbage because what happens is it starts there, and then you get real quality, reputable developers seeing, hey, this is actually something that people actually need. It's not just for an internet marketer now. Now it's for a business coach. Now it's for a school. Now it's for all these different scenarios of where a membership is very beneficial and makes sense. But it really all started in the internet marketing days. And actually, if I did follow Chris Lemma's series when he was doing it, and he covered like this whole spectrum. It's like a 30-day thing, and he did one per day because there's so many of them that are so outdated, such garbage, so poorly thought out. But they were hot 5 years ago, and it's just that quality developers have caught up to it. Basically, if you want to save yourself a lot of time when it comes to membership plugins, I even recently did a review, an updated review of MemberPress, which is by Blair Williams. And if you want to save yourself some time, you want to go with really 3 options. Number 1, it's going to be MemberPress. Number 2, it's going to be what Pippin has with Restrict Content Pro. That wouldn't have been the case actually 2 years ago. He took some fresh set of eyes and said, hey, I need to push this thing. 2 years ago, it wouldn't have been that. But today it's Restrict Content Pro. And if you're already using WooCommerce, you should just use the WooCommerce membership add-on. It's kind of pricey though, but if you're already using WooCommerce, you should really go that route because these guys, they've already thought through everything. Like that was the summary of my 30-minute review video. MemberPress is Blair and his team have thought through everything, and they've built it already, so you don't have to. What happens is when you say, I want a membership, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you need in 6 months or in a year, but you've got these guys like Blair and Pippin that have already thought through a lot of that stuff, and they've already implemented most of these ideas. There's so many you want to stay away from. You do not want to go free when it comes to membership plugins. I do not care. You do not want to do that. You're asking for trouble. You know, you definitely want to go with one of these paid options. And the main things you want these days is you want flexible payment options, meaning the processors you can use, and also how you can sell your membership, whether it be reoccurring and having trials and stuff like that. You definitely want that. Number 2, you want it to be very easy to set up. And number 3, you want to be able to have integrations with email marketing providers. So you got to go with one of the ones that have a lot of those integrations so that when someone signs up, you can pass the info into your autoresponder service. And but really, those are really the 2 you should look at. There's so many you shouldn't look at. Digital Access Pass, that was one of the internet marketing ones. You do not want that. S2 Member, you do not want that. Optimized Press, Optimized Member, you do not want that. Not to be like harsh and say don't do this or do this, but my point is you want to make the right decision up front. You're going to make money from this. Spend a little bit of money.
Yeah, I think I do agree with that. Let's go to Kim. What do you think, Kim? And what are some of your favorites and some of the things you think people got to know?
Adam and I are very, very in line here. And I have a detailed like planning guide I make people go through. Even though they don't know what they're going to know and need in 2 years, I can usually tell from the guide where we need to point them. I agree. I've just come back to Pippin's. I originally taught 2 membership plugins, Paid Membership Pro and MemberPress, and I'll tell you the 2 different reasons why. I agree, don't go free for most things, but there's still a few times. And Restrict Content Pro at the time was not doing it. I've just come back to it, and I think Pippin has really, like you said, rethought it and added a lot of things. I would say for 90% of my clients, I still put them in MemberPress because it is got the absolutely hands down the most options. It's got every single evaluation criteria you put, Jonathan, multiple concurrent memberships, group memberships, prorated upgrades and downgrades, content dripping. And the most specific and precise options for restricting content. The rules engine in that bad boy is big. Having said that,
it's easy to use, right?
It's easy to use.
It's so crazily easy to use.
But it is a learning curve for some of my less technical people. So I do still have people, because 90% of my clients are people who are business coaches, health coaches, etc., and they're wanting to build online courses, learning platforms, etc. So 90% of the time it's MemberPress. I still do, though. If someone wants something super easy to spin up and they're just going to have their 20 people that they do group coaching with and let them in here, they're not going to be selling things and upgrading, etc. I do still support Paid Memberships Pro because they can just have it up and running so quickly. But hands down, I say MemberPress is the top one for all the criteria. And yet, at the same time, because of the way all of them handle WordPress, there are still issues we run into. And I'm actually like, those guys are getting like 10 emails a day from me right now because of a big a big launch we've just done. And a couple of it's bugs we found, but some of it is just things like if somebody ditches out of a shopping cart without putting their credit card in and they just ditch, it still creates a user in WordPress for them, and just leaves them hanging out there as pending. And it would be so elegant if we could have that either not happen, like have them actually created at the point that they press the pay button, not the first I'm interested button, or even a way to just remove all of those pending quickly. Because we had a situation where we did a big webinar, we did a big launch, they gave a free coupon, and like over 100 people just ditched before putting in their credit card. And now I have to manually go clean that up. So while I do love it, I still think that there are some places we could go a little more elegant and a little more business and not be so tied into just the WordPress paradigm of what a user and a member is.
I think that's fantastic, Kim. Mendel, I don't know if you've got much experience with membership plugins and that. Got any thoughts about this?
I do. I always have thoughts.
Voice.
Yeah. So a couple things. If you haven't checked it out, we've mentioned Chris Lemma. Syed also has some things on WP Beginner around membership plugins. I'm going to take a starter perspective. So Kim is talking about the client that comes to her and says, "Hey, I really need like my site to be a membership site. I want to add this functionality, or I want to build this out, or I have this new thing, and it's funded, whatever." Right? I actually don't think you should always go to a membership plugin. So what I mean by that is if you have this great idea and you're like, "Man, I'm going to go create a membership site," sometimes it might be better to try out something like Opt-in Monster to restrict some content and see if people are interested in that content as a one-off, right? To kind of test the idea of membership, because it could be that you're creating a canon of content that nobody cares about, right? And so before you go through all the work to set up the rules engines and to figure out what's going to be restricted and what's not, and what your payment processes are going to be, and all that time, because time is money, I think going through that simple testing process works. So I've been doing this. I put my money where my mouth is, right? I've been doing it with my my personal site, Hiking with Geeks. And if you go to it, there's certain content, there are trail guides, right? There's certain content that's restricted. What I'm doing is testing to see if people care about that content. If they care about it, I'm like, okay, then maybe they would pay a membership fee of $4.99 a month to gain access to the special tips, right? So I'm only restricting special tips within the content. So it gives me a really good indication of whether or not what I'm offering is of value. There are other ways to test it too, but anyway, Opt-in Monster is one of those things that helps to restrict the content. There are other plugins out there that do it as well. Opt-in Monster is by far the most popular. But anyway, that's my perspective.
So Mendel, you mean You mean just, and I get it. If it's not your business model, you don't necessarily need a full membership site. So you mean just using an opt-in to hide what you want to see what people are doing?
Yeah, but I'm suggesting that where I want to take things, or where some people want to take things, is to a full-fledged membership site, but to dial in what you're going to offer before you restrict everything.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And for some people, it is just restricting. I worked with a client last year, and we actually used Ninja Forms. They just wanted to restrict like 2 to 3 pages for sales leads, gathering sales leads. There were white papers they were going to give away. It was a technology company.
Yeah,
and we
totally.
just used Ninja Forms and did a redirect. You filled it out. They redirected you to that page. And
or
it was
EDD, right?
Yeah, easy digital downloads too. OptiMonster has hurt the performance on some of my sites, so I've pulled back on that one. But yes, I agree with you. If you're not looking necessarily for full-fledged, or you don't know if you have that yet, then I agree. Test it out. Don't just jump into it. If, however, you're someone who is, your business model is, I'm a business coach or somebody like that, I'm doing group coaching.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
We know that we want that private area.
And if you have a market already, right? Or if you have customers already, you're like, they've expressed interest in purchasing X content, then do it. Go straight for it, right? But if you don't know, if you're testing something new, I recommend take action, but don't go all out. It can be expensive when you add a lot of stuff on there, development work and stuff like that. So
I think that's a fantastic area that you've opened in the discussion, really, Mendel, because it's something that people don't really think about. They tend to get sucked into the technology for obvious reasons.
And the money, right? Everybody wants a membership plugin.
Well, it's the time. It is going to take time, a lot of time. I think Jackie's got a question, haven't you, Jackie?
I do. Let's just take a hypothetical example for somebody maybe starting off. If you are interested in selling some courses, but you're also thinking at some point you might want to have a membership site where there's a premium access and you have content to deliver for that. What's your criteria in evaluating what components you're going to need to put something like that together? Because typically you may want to start with just selling some courses in the beginning, right? Because you might not have enough content where you're going to attract people that want to join a membership, right? So you start off with that, but you want to kind of plan it out so that your architecture doesn't have to be completely redone later if you wanted to add a membership site. So I'm just curious like Kim probably knows the answer to this, which is why I'm asking it.
Well, that's what I spoke on at WordCamp last year twice.
But before Kim, I'd like to see if John's got any thoughts about Jackie's question.
Can you say it one more time? I'm sorry. Go ahead. One more time.
Okay. So I was saying, if you were planning on selling some courses to start with, and you eventually want to have a membership component to it where people can subscribe to that as well, and you've got premium content that you're delivering, how do you go about choosing the architecture for that? Because you're going to start off very simple. You might want to have a shopping cart and some courses, but at some point you're going to want to restrict content and offer maybe something else like a membership content. So, and what's the difference between a learning management system and a restricted content system, and are they the same, and how would you like tackle that whole thing?
Well, Kim could definitely she would have like insight as like learning management systems for sure. That's her wheelhouse. I know from my experiences, because I've had, I have a couple clients, they have basically memberships. And what I have found is sometimes like what you start with is not what you finish with. And what get one point won't always take you to the next level. For example, I've got one client, I started her on Restrict Content Pro because that kind of served the needs for that point. She is selling like one course at the time. Just a few months ago, I switched her to iThemes Exchange because the complexity of what she was selling, she was offering like more courses, and that was a better fit. So definitely there's you need to evaluate, I guess, like where you're at and where you want to go when choosing stuff, but realize that you might need to like rework stuff at some point. You know, there's definitely things that you can use like Sensei, iThemes Exchange. You could, you know, even something like Restrict Content Pro to start out with. But, you know, it helps to like know like where you're going. And with membership plugins, there's a lot of features, and I would give advice to like people who are building out stuff. If it's your first time like building out no matter what it is, whether it's a membership site or something else, e-commerce or whatever, give yourself enough budget to try different things, because the first plugin that you grab might not be the one that is the best fit for that client. So if it's your first time like doing something, have an adequate budget so you can experiment, or otherwise you're going to be really stuck.
I think
Absolutely.
I think that's a great point, actually, John. You that's been my experience with clients as well. Is they you know, it might be best to go with a simple solution to start with, and then learn about your audience and where you're taking the product. What do you think about that, Kim?
Well, first of all, when you mentioned Sensei, I'm going to kind of go back to something Adam said earlier. If you're a WooCommerce shop, go Sensei. Absolutely. If you're a WooCommerce shop and you want to add online courses and you want to add membership, go with Sensei and the other. If you just want to if you want to just put together some online courses, having to implement WooCommerce to do that is ridiculous. It's overkill. So I would never start there with somebody. However, if you want to start with an online course or two, and you know in the future you want to have membership, I would go ahead right now and build out a learning platform that is a combination of a membership plugin, most likely MemberPress, and a learning management system. Learning management system, here's the difference. Learning management system is something that just delivers really the automated courses. Now, Lifter LMS does have a membership piece to that, and it is tied just for their LMS. So having the fuller option of MemberPress is going to give you a lot more options. The reason I would do that with my clients is we can as easily configure MemberPress and LearnDash, or MemberPress and WP Courseware, any of those that work together, in the same time frame as we can do one and add it on later. And if I sell my courses, for example, I create a membership and my course resides in that membership, that's the way I sell it, I have more options to deliver better information to my students, because a really good course has more than just automated step-by-step lessons. It has extra resources. It has extra protected content. It might have a bulletin board, you know, a BB press. It's so easy to implement that within that MemberPress or other membership piece, tie it all together, and you're going to come out without having to come back later and re-architect. It would save you in the long run money and time, actually.
Yeah, what I'm getting from this panel is, you know, like a lot of things with WordPress, we're dealing with a very diverse field of clientele and people's needs. And maybe another thing I would say, folks, that will save you maybe a lot of money and a lot of aggravation, is to approach a developer, somebody like John, somebody like Jackie, and of course learn on Kim's website and join one of her courses, and it'll probably save you a lot of time and frustration about starting the right route, because there is a lot of balls here, you know, a lot of factors that you've got to understand. And another thing I would say, John recently interviewed our last episode, Mike Morrison of the Membership Guys, and I think it's a fantastic interview that John did with Mike, and he's got a lot of experience also about some of the key features that you really need to know when you're looking at a membership site, and you know, around some of the things that Mendel mentioned, another area that was linked to what Mendel said is you've got to have an audience, folks. You've got to have some marketing plan. You've got to have some idea how you're going to get an audience if you haven't got one established. And that's going to be a major factor about if you're going to get any success. Would you agree with that, Kim? Or do you think I'm waffling?
Oh no, you've got to have the audience, and however if you're building them now or you've already got it, but you're not going to put up a membership site and just sell without your audience. Doesn't happen.
And I loved what Mendel said. I loved what you said, Mendel, is, doing some pre-testing, just because I actually think even if you got a reasonably high traffic website and you got a lot of content, it's really difficult, if it's mostly free, getting their wallet out, even if it can just be $1, is a big change, isn't it, Mendel? What do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest part, right? And you don't want to alienate your existing audience by giving them something they don't care about. I test everything. So, whether it's Facebook ads, throwing a $5 test out there, which seems absurd, but just to understand, a key demographic or a response rate or something like that. I think that's important. It's just the same as, you create multiple landing pages for conversion, or you create different checkout flows and things like that. You should also test what content is going to be valuable. So I think testing, that is what I believe in. People, testing.
1, 2, 3, 4 testing. Folks, Adam had to leave us quickly because he actually joined us on his holiday, which we're very blessed there, but he's passionate about membership sites. So I think we round this up with just one final question, folks. If there's one tip, one little bit of advice you could give to the audience about the general subject, what would that be? And I'll start with Kim. Anything comes straight in your mind?
Absolutely. If you're going to build a good membership site, even with 50 people or more, I highly recommend putting it on a subdomain, not in the same site that is your main marketing site.
And why would you advise that?
It's a lot easier to manage that, if you're having an issue with an upgrade, et cetera, everybody who is logging into your site is over there. They're not in your main site where you have a security issue, and this has happened before. Now people have access to things they shouldn't have had access to because they're in your site. And it allows you to actually more logically organize the content. It's different. It's not like I'm just going to hide a page or two. If you're just going to hide a page or two, I love Mendel's idea of just putting it behind an opt-in. This should be laid out logically as that private area for that specific audience. In a lot of ways, they're different audiences. There may be crossover, but in a lot of ways, there's different audiences. So from a management perspective of your own, a logic perspective, and possible security, I highly recommend to my clients to put it on a subdomain.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. What about you, Mendel? Any last tips or thoughts about our conversation?
What do you think I'm going to say? Test it. And Kim and Jackie, talk to them, and John too. Great advice. Talk to experts and test. Even better, test some stuff before you go to the experts. And then they'll even be able to help you better. Maybe you'll pay them a little less money because it'll take a little less time for you to get to the right answers. So
that's great. And what about you, John? Any thoughts, tips, things that you think somebody should know that could avoid some aggro straight off?
Yeah. Before I give my tip, I want to say Adam Silver just said, "Hey, I'm about to revamp Kitchen Sink WP." Adding membership and forum. So timely advice. So there you go. Big shout out, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
But I would say this, do your research. Don't just grab the first membership plugin that looks good. because every single site, every single client, every single audience is completely different. So do your research up front and don't try and shove that square peg in a round hole. So that's my advice.
And I'm going to finish Jackie, and Jackie wants to do some membership sites, but you haven't done one for a while, have you, Jackie? But was the conversation useful, and do you think it's giving you some insights?
I do. I think that Kim and John both answered my question about deciding on an architecture, how you want to, what it is you're going to be doing, what do you plan on doing, and knowing that first before you jump in and choose a plugin to start with, so that you don't want to, even just choosing the right learning management system plugin to start with can make a big difference as far as what direction you want to go and what you can add, whether you're going to be using WooCommerce, whether you're going to be using something else for your checkout process. So I think that was all very helpful advice. And if you haven't done anything yet, then you've got some questions to ask yourself before you get started.
Yeah, I think that's great. I would just finish off, folks, is that my own thoughts about this is plan what you are going to sell, because if it's going to be just solely a digital product, Pippins Williams products probably going to offer some great benefit. But then I've had clients halfway through saying, well, we decided we're going to sell T-shirts or we're going to sell mugs. Well, then you can't really so easily use Pippin Williams. And then, but if it's only going to be like 3 or 4 products, going to WooCommerce seems a bit crazy. So look at iThemes product exchange that John has mentioned, because that gives you the flexibility and it comes from a great coding shop as well. So doing a bit of pre-planning really helps, folks. And a bit like what Mendel and some of the other panelists have mentioned, where the plugin you start off with probably won't be the membership plugin that you end with, because you learn more about your audience and you learn more about the people that pay for the membership and the functionality that they ask for. And you probably, like a lot of things, you will outgrow your original plugin if you're doing your marketing and you're getting the kind of response that you hope for. So that's me waffling a little bit. If you need any advice, go to the WP-Tonic website. We support membership websites and we can give you some advice as well. And I'm going to wrap up by asking my great panel to give us how they could be contacted. And we're going to start with Kim. How can people get hold of you, Kim?
You can find me on Twitter at Kim Shivler, or you can find me at howtobuildanonlinecourse.com. I do have a free membership planning guide. Reach out to me if you would like it. And along with my training, I also do coaching and consulting to help people find a plugin that will work for them if you're looking to do that.
Oh, that's great. Jackie, how can people get a hold of you? You're mute, Jackie.
You're on mute. There you go.
Back.
You're back.
I'm back. You can find me on Twitter at jdelia.com, at my website, jackiedelia.com, or you can hit me up over at rethink.fm.
Which is another great podcast, folks, and I regularly listen to it, and you should as well. Mendel, how can people get hold of you?
Good question. Good question. So you can go on Twitter to @IfYouWillIt. It's @IfYouWillIt. And of course, I have free tools that help you manage your sites and clients at godaddy.com/pro.
The big daddy. John, how can people get hold of you, my beloved co-host?
Oh, before I give the details, I just want to give an extra shout out to Jackie. Recent episode she did with our fellow panelist, Morten Rand Hendrickson. Go check that episode out. It is a killer episode. So if you want to get a hold of me, you can find me at my website, which is lockdowndesign.com. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, lockdown_. I'm always stirring stuff up. how do we get a hold of you, Jonathan?
It's quite easy, folks. I'm on the Twitter at Jonathan Denwood. Sporadically recently, but I am on there. I'm also trying to do more on Facebook, showing my face a bit more on the beloved Facebook. And you can always email me. I do reply when it's a question or somebody needs some help. I will try and help you out. And that's at jonathan@WP-Tonic.com. And we love you to give us a review on iTunes. Or if you go to the website and look at any of the show notes, there's a big button at the bottom. And you click that iTunes button and it'll take you somewhere where you can leave a review on iTunes, and it really does help the show. And in general, me and John would love more feedback from people and get more involvement from the listeners. That would really help as well. So we're going to finish the show. I think it's been a great show. I think we've offered a lot of insight, and we'll see you next week. Remember, you can join us on Facebook live at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and be part of the discussion. We'll see you next time, folks. Bye.
Bye.